Welcome everybody. Director's commentary time. Cheers. Oh, what am I drinking? It's actually broth, just clear broth. It happens to be turkey broth, made from the Christmas turkey carcass. And the reason why I'm drinking it is because tomorrow I have a lovely date, a beautiful day planned. And it involves a drive into town, probably a very pretty day, meeting some new people I haven't met before, and bending over naked in front of them. Tomorrow's colonoscopy day. So I'm drinking all the liquids, and after I finish this commentary, I have to start on the hard stuff. And anyone who's ever had one knows exactly what I'm talking about. Oh boy. So let's distract my stressed out mind for the moment, shall we? And do this director's commentary. This is Romania. Do I give a backstory on this? I'm not even sure how I ended up in Romania. Friend of a friend, somebody knew somebody. But boy, was I ever thrilled when I got there. One of the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life. Shall we?
In Romania, the Argeș Mountains have 2,280 square kilometers of wild mountain area with 4 main mountains. Fugareș has another 1,000 square kilometers more in the 3 neighboring counties. There's nothing but pure nature here. If we're talking about the Romanian Carpathians, the entire mountain chain is more than 1,000 kilometers, with an average width of 70 to 100 kilometers. This is a mountain hiker's paradise. But when it comes to surviving, there will always be a fine line between paradise and hell.
Maybe that's not so dramatic of a script after all, because the reality is, ask anybody who's ever been in an actual survival situation, and they do not reminisce on it lovingly. It was horrible and torture for them. And it wouldn't matter how beautiful the area was. Even though in Survivorman I often said, look how beautiful this is. That's because I had the opportunity to feel that way. But in a real survival situation, everything's hell. Always remember that. Survival is not a recreational activity, even though it's treated as such nowadays. In survival, there's only one thing you want, and that's to go home. End of story. Ask anybody who's ever had to really do it.
Transylvania conjures up just one image: Dracula. But that fictional character is far from the reality of a region that in my eyes is one of the most beautiful places on earth. Fugareș is the Romanian name for what most of Europe calls the Transylvanian Alps. It's a wonderfully varied mountain landscape. It's home to about 6,000 brown bears. Every hiker that comes here does so knowing that they're coming to one of the world's best kept natural secrets. As it is with so many beautiful places, and especially mountains, it has its dark side, its dark history. But that history does not belong to the natural splendor. It belongs to those individuals who do not take their own safety seriously, who take unnecessary chances and risks, who underestimate the difficulties and overestimate their own abilities. There's a group of highly dedicated volunteers called Survivorman. Literally translated, means mountain rescue. I'm going to head up into an area that's well off the beaten path and give Survivorman a chance to test and hone their skills.
Let's stop that right there. So yeah, this was an amazing opportunity. Originally, actually the idea of me placing myself somewhere tricky and having search and rescue teams all around the world find me was something I pitched to Discovery Channel a few times. Couldn't get their head around it. No, just do Survivorman, just do Survivorman. It's like, this is progression. This is a great idea and a great way to still be in the rugged world of survival, actual survival, but to show this whole other amazing world of search and rescue. I'm still pitching that show, to be honest with you, and still not getting traction on it. It's crazy, because it would be an amazing series, I always thought. I don't think this was the first one. I think the first one I did was in Temagami with Bushman Bob, when we did that search and rescue mission there. And when I did that, I realized this is pretty cool. This could be very exciting. And I had a connection through somebody to the search and rescue team in Romania, which top shelf as far as skill sets and search and rescue around the world. I'm now a search and rescue consultant down in Jacksonville, Oregon, and been on many missions. I've found a dead individual myself, have found a live individual who was lost for 18 days with a team of 4, and 5 actually together with me, and amazing missions to be on. And I suggest highly that if, you know, and you don't, to get involved with search and rescue volunteerism, you don't have to be in super shape. You can be the person who stays in the truck and mans the radio. So there's a lot of opportunities there to volunteer for search and rescue. So this was a chance to go, okay, you know, can I get lost out there? Can I go somewhere and not tell you where I am? Because that's the biggest thing, is convincing the chief that you don't want them to know where you are, because it's got to be for real. More on that in a second.
While trying to find and rescue me. Hopefully before I succumb to the elements, while surviving here in the Fugaresh Mountains of Romania.
The first part of my journey will take me across the ridges and mountaintops along established trails. For the love of the hike alone, my team will start this journey with me. The trails here are sometimes obvious, and other times they disappear or remain obscured by the dense fog that can roll in without any warning. It's a fog so thick, it leaves many hikers gripped in fear of moving forward. But the view is worth it. It's a long, grueling day given the fact that I don't do this every day. And it's here at the top that my team leaves me alone to wander down into the tree line and off the established mountain trails.
So, little commentary there on my team. In this case, I remember it was Max Atwood and Andrew Shepard that were doing the filming, the crew filming for this to get things started. And it was this all-day hike up the mountains. And I'll never forget that they were walking behind me, and they were geeking out talking about camera lenses, right? Just total nerd movement for both of them in terms of just camera geeking out, just all the on and on and on and on and on. At some point I separated from them. It was quite a few hours later that they kind of caught up to me, and it sounded like they were having the exact same still going conversation. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you guys still talking about camera lenses? And indeed they were, and I think they've been doing it that whole day. Just the fun part of being friends with camera nerds.
I mean, I always liked the crew just because it was a really small, tight-knit crew. I think on shoots like that, where you are in the elements, you really have to like trust the other people and really rely. If something goes wrong, like, you know, those are the people who are gonna support you. So I think like you inherently develop pretty close relationships with the people. Like, you know, like I'm still, you know, very close with Laura to this day, the photographer. Barry Clark as well. Like, I think that there's this special connection you develop with someone when you go through something like that. Like a really kind of like if we had a hard shoot, you know, it's just a special kind of relationship, right? Like not a lot of people get to go through that, you know, with someone. The camp vibe was always great. I mean, we all were very serious about our work, but we always, you know, found the time to enjoy ourselves as well.
Where I pick up the story from here is at the foot of an old sheep farmer's cabin. That might sound luxurious, but they don't usually leave these places in very good repair, so take a quick look, see what I'm dealing with. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's filthy. Really bad. I don't know if you can see it or not. Yeah. There's nothing here, and there's nothing that I even want to make use of. That's the way it is. I suppose if it starts to storm, I could come in here and get a fire going in here. But you know what? It's damp and moldy and wet in here. Sometimes I get lucky when you find a survival cabin that's maybe even meant to be for survival, like I did in Labrador, or it's just there, but it's, you know, it's decent enough you can sleep in it.
And I always love this part of the survival stories, making use of existing cabins and dwellings and caves and so on. That's just a cool part and very real part of what happens in a real survival situation. And I loved that this cabin was basically uninhabitable. It was disgusting. It was all mildew and terrible smelling, and I didn't want to be in there. If it's got to storm, I could go in there. Same thing with the cabin in Grenada, which I thought was going to be fine, and then the ants came out, and it's just ants, fire ants everywhere. But then there was the cabin in Labrador or the cabin in Norway, which was fantastic. So that's the way it goes. Sometimes you find a dwelling and you think it's salvation, then you get inside and it's just been, there's been nothing but raccoons living in it for the past 10 years. And you can't even breathe. You'd be asphyxiated from the methane from all of the droppings. So I always thought it's just a real story to tell about what happens when you're actually out there trying to survive. Like what happened in Argentina. Sometimes you come across a cabin like this and frankly, I'd rather stay outside than inside.
Sometimes a ready-made shelter or cabin can have food and supplies. Other times, they're barely worth using. But I won't look a gift horse in the mouth. There's lots of wood to scrounge. It's been over 9 hours of mountain hiking, and I've got to somehow gain back a lot of lost energy.
Still split wood even when you don't have an axe. And that is, by the way, a little what do you call it here? Not a push. What the heck? How do you say this? I have not. Maybe it's the turkey broth and the lack of food today because I'm not supposed to eat anything today, just on clear liquids. All right, back to this. That knife, beautiful knife that I worked with Hella to design, and the Tumagami, the Wabakimi, and the Mandra, the 3 knives that I've developed with Hella, just gorgeous knives. If you get a chance, check those out. You will not regret owning one of those knives. And now also on a more technical side of it, also in stunningly beautiful knives, are the LT Wright knives that I'm working with, a company out of Ohio. I'm still in business with both Hella and LT Wright, different styles of knives. One company doesn't do that style and the other company doesn't do that style. And so it's really nice to be able to work with both of them. And by the way, those companies, they've been wonderful. They both know about each other and they've been just fantastic. That's professionalism for you, realizing that we can all win in this game. And so designing the knives with Hella has been a joy, and you get to see them in use here, and that's all I got to say about that. Now these old sheep huts, some of them are active, and you might have a shepherd to come along. Many others are, like this one, abandoned. Oh, look at that. So I didn't realize. So that's my one-person survival kit right there. I got about 50 of those left downstairs, also the group ones, just downstairs where I am right now. And we don't sell them anymore. Camillus could not get behind them because they weren't cheap enough. They wanted to do all cheap stuff. I've told this story probably far too many times. You can check out my opinion on survival kits, both in the last episode I did, the fan episode, or in the actual talk I do about survival kits that's somewhere on this YouTube channel. Just do a search for it and you'll find it. But there it is. I didn't realize that I brought this with me, and that's great. With my book, Will to Live, for example, show that, Luke. The story I often tell when I'm dissecting these different survival stories is, what are the components of survival? Well, one of the components of survival, other than luck, your fitness level, your skill level, is your kit. And never underestimate the power of a well-stocked survival kit in an actual survival situation. That kit can mean life or death. And so when we designed this kit, which is, again, this was the last thing I did with Camillus and they hated me for it, it was very expensive, but I just couldn't compromise. There's no way. These people, you have to think about your survival kit like it's a first aid kit. And so the story I like to tell as well is there's no knife in the kit. Why wouldn't you put a knife in a survival kit? Whoa. The only knife you can economically put in a survival kit is a cheap one. And I want people to have a real knife, a solid knife, a belt knife, an axe, a hatchet, a machete. Not some crappy little thing that fits inside a small little bright red kit that you bought off the shelf. That's a soapbox I don't think I'll ever get tired of jumping off of. That's a soapbox That's a soapbox I will never tire of standing on top of. There you go. Come on. And there may not be somebody back here for a year. There's no guarantee that you're going to be rescued, but a good place to pull into and to survive if you have to, at least for a while, because you've got some protection. You want to know what I had to worry about a lot in Romania? Not the brown bears, but apparently the most aggressive animal out there are any kind of random wandering sheepdogs. apparently they could be quite aggressive and mean. So, and I always had, when I was younger, I had a bit of a phobia on dogs. I'm fine now with it for the most part, but yeah, so I was like, oh man, I got to worry about random sheepdogs. I'll take wolves, I'll take bears, but random dogs, I was more fearful of that than anything else.
Oh boy. Oh, there we go. Come on. There you go, there you go. Give it a little bit of oxygen. Probably the hardest thing to do is to patiently light a fire when you're cold and exhausted.
People have died waiting for rescue at a camp or cabin that no one is going to come to. Exhausted or not, I need to stay warm and dry tonight to be able to think clearly tomorrow and get a bearing on what I should do next. Using a rain poncho instead of a rain coat gives me more versatility in sheltering myself from the wind or rain.
I wanted to do a real quick zone of assessment number 1, which is everything that I have on me. I went with, instead of a jacket, a rain poncho. The other thing I brought along was my own personal survival kit. I want to see how it fares in circumstances like this. Does it make things a lot better or just a tiny little bit better?
That's a great thing to do with your survival kits. It's not enough just to test them out in only one location, but all the time, you know, they're great to test out on camping trips. You know, a side commentary on survival skills and that and learning them. You know, some of my best survival skills, I really honed in on wonderful camping trips, canoeing trips where I had food and a tent and sleeping bags, all that sort of stuff. So for example, fire starting. I was an outdoor guide for the Temagami Wilderness Center and Canadian Wilderness Association and Blackfeather Wilderness Adventures for many years and other companies as well. So what I did was, this is a great thing to try out, especially with your kids or whatever. So the summer's coming, you're gonna light a bunch of campfires that summer. In my case, I was lighting, 100 campfires. So the first summer, I'm an outdoor guide. I'm guiding canoe trips with clients. And I limited myself to starting every single fire, no matter what the weather, or no matter how much time I had, with a flint striker. You can bet by the end of that summer, I was really good at the flint striker. The next summer, I did it again, clients waiting, morning coffee, it's raining, with rock and steel and charred cloth. Got really good at that by the end of the summer. And the final one, the firebow. And what a great way to get good at a skill like that is while you're on a camping trip and you just limit yourself. Because when it's been raining for 4 days and all you have is a firebow and you've got your dry spindle and stuff like that, but not tinder. Like I had left everything other than the equipment itself to the location. Now I got to find dry tinder and it's pouring rain. You learn how to do that, and that's a great way to do it, in my opinion.
Does it get me through the day, or is it mostly useless? I want to find that out in a scenario like this. This becomes that first night at the end of a long day of hiking when you think you're supposed to be home, but you take a wrong turn and you don't make it home. Now to get through the night and rethink everything tomorrow morning.
I often try to simulate the circumstances that anyone else might find themselves in order to figure out how survival would or could play itself out successfully or poorly.
It's not the first time I've slept on some pretty hard ground, but as long as it doesn't rain, this is a pretty warm spot to be, actually. I don't really want to sleep just yet. I try to wait to sleep until it's dark so that I sleep through the night, but
A little trick there. I think in those pants, look how round my knees are and how big they look. That's because those are the pants that have the actual knee pads that fit right inside the pants I think on the inside, or maybe it's on the outside with a pocket, I'm not sure. And so awesome to be, because in survival you kneel down a lot. You're kneeling on rocks and hard ground and twigs and sticks. And those little pads on the knees, I don't care how old you are, they're just great.
Too exhausted to wait that long. And in survival, you gotta sleep when you can. Sleep never comes easy in a survival situation.
One of Barry Farrell's super long dissolves there. This is patented, not patented, but trademarks super long dissolves.
In the Fugareș Mountains of Romania, I'm alone at the top of the tree line, the morning after a grueling day of hiking the mountaintops.
Before I carry on with anything, I gotta slow myself down and think things through properly, and one of the best ways to do that is to stop and just simply center yourself with a bit of meditation. Let's do a little bit of a recap on my situation. Full, long day of hiking. The mindset that I've set up for myself is that it was only supposed to be one day, supposed to be home last night. In my mind, I know as a hiker, I'm thinking, well, fine, I'm just gonna keep walking down and I'm gonna get out of here today. And so with that mindset, what do I do next? To start with, one day of hiking, just some beef jerky. Now, am I going to ration it, or am I going to just eat it all? I think a lot of times what happens is, in a situation like this, someone just goes for it and they eat it all because, well, I'm gonna be home. Hopefully even within hours, I'll be home and I'll be happy and I'll be eating lunch and I'll be fine. So I'm not gonna ration. I'm gonna eat the whole thing right now and then that'll be it. I'll have no food. I forgot that.
You catch what I'm doing there? It's the attempt to simulate what someone would normally do. And that's the point. And that way I'm constantly putting myself in that position, like sleeping out and so on. And sometimes, and I've told this story before, I'm sure, but sometimes purposely as Survivorman doing something against my better wish, my better, thinking is the way it would normally be done by someone, traditionally speaking, or in terms of statistically speaking, let's say. And so that's what I would do. And then that lays out how am I going to deal with the rest of this now? Maybe I can start to let a little bit of the Les Stroud, the survival instructor, seep back into each day so that I'm doing things to keep myself alive.
Also brought this along. One day hiker, make a little bit of tea with some wildflowers or something like that. So I found this. It says ultralight cook kit. So thought I'd bring it along. It does require fuel. Instead of using the fuel bottle to make this little mini stove work, I brought my own little flask. I threw in this rope survival kit. I'm just gonna hook it onto the back of my pack, but in addition, this time I also brought my own survival kit. I'll use up the items for this kit as I need to use them. And in fact, I will start with the compass because I've got to make my way through some pretty thick forest, and I'm going to try and find an established trail that's here, but it's really old, no one uses it, so I'm going to need the compass to keep me on track. And that's the other thing about heading out. When you have maps of the area, you've got to make use of them. You've got to get them in your mind so that if you lose the map or anything goes wrong, you'll remember, oh, there's a trail there, there's a cabin over there, there's a highway over there, there's a road, there's here's where the river goes. Those things are really important to know. On any outing, you've got to know your escape route. Now, I'm just gonna walk out and walk home. That is the mindset that happens so often with people when they're lost. Well, I'll be out tomorrow. I'm gonna maintain that mindset to see what kind of mistakes I make.
Yeah, that's a big one. I mean, even myself in the early days, you're going on any kind of trip at all, how many people will take a map with them but not really ever look at it? I mean, it's a kind of a man cave sort of thing, to have like a map room, scotch room, cigar room, poker room, map room. It's all man cave kind of thing. But sitting there poring over maps, it's addicting. It's so addictive to just, oh yeah, I could go there. I could go, ooh, that'd be really cool to see. Ooh, look at that's got to be a stunning cliff. But do that before any trip you're about to take. Is try to visually lock in the memory of what that map looks like, because also you could lose your map.
Hopefully none. Oh boy, eating this is not a mistake.
Notwithstanding the pristine reputation of this wild area, it's also home to logging, oftentimes illegal. But whether legal or illegal, long winding roads are cut into the forests, many of which seem to start and ultimately lead nowhere. They exist as just abandoned and unhealed scars on the landscape, an easy place to get lost.
All right, well, most importantly, before I get underway here, when I did my sort of zone of assessment number 2 and checked further afield from where I was at this sheep hut, I found something vital. And to me, it's still probably the most important thing you need to find in a survival situation. Ooh, there's all kinds of maggots hatching down in the bottom end of this water, but that's below where the stream comes out. All right, here's my idea. It actually falls right in line with my philosophy on what to do with survival gear anyway. I'm taking my personal survival kit and taking out of it items that I would rather have on my body, like in my pockets. But once you start having things around your neck, in your pockets, on your belt, like this fire striker would be perfect to go on my belt, I'll do that. Whistle in my pocket. Then I end up with this pot, which I can use as a water carrier. All right, it's really important that I hydrate here and just drink as much water as I can.
And you know, a point there, what we used to use when learning in survival were actually coffee cans, because they come with that plastic lid that is, for the most part, watertight. And that's actually one of the drawbacks of my own kit that I designed, is it doesn't have a watertight lid. I think that every survival kit should itself also be a pot that you can boil water in, and a water carrier that's got a tight lid. So whatever you use, like I said, we used to use coffee tins. Everything has a double and triple and quadruple duty to it. So there you go.
I'm way better off to sip water all day long than doing what I'm doing right now, which is guzzling big amounts, because this will just wash right through my system. All right. So that's a good amount of water right there. I'd completely forgotten that Ziploc bags were part of the kit that I've made up. There we go. You know, what I may want to do just in case is double this bag, rather than taking 2 and having them break. All right, that gives me not a bad amount of water to travel with in an emergency situation. Because boy, the worst thing is to become dehydrated, and the temperatures.
You can see what's going on there. I mean, absolutely. You come across water, you don't know when you're going to come across it again. Any container that you can turn into a container that holds water tight, I would fill them all up.
Temperatures are hot during the day, and I don't know if I'm going to pass a lot of streams or no streams at all. And if that's the case, then I've got a supply of water to take with me now.
At this point, the search and rescue team does not know, like that. None of that's been set up yet. I believe I think we laid it out so there was like a sort of a set ahead of time, an automatic sort of schedule to send out the signal, which has not happened yet.
Head down into the tree line. I have only the faint markings of an old trail that I'll try to follow.
This is all I've got to work with. So as I head down further, deeper into the forest, I've got to keep finding these. If I don't, I lose the trail. But that's why I have the compass, because I think generally speaking, all I want to do is head straight east. And the compass will, if I lose the trail, the compass will help me do that. Wow, I can see that going this way to my right, it really drops off far. There's got to be some cliffs on that side, so at least that'll keep me from going too far to the south if there's cliffs there, because there's no way the trail goes down cliffs.
As I hike down off the mountaintops, it gets increasingly difficult to find any trail markings. It is, after all, an abandoned trail. But you wouldn't know that from the map that shows it as established as any other trail. This is the failing of trusting only a map. Maps lose their accuracy on a yearly basis.
Big thing is looking down for markings, but also looking back up. Oh, I see a marking, okay. So they're pretty faint. I guess it means going down that way. Got a lot of trees that have fallen over as well, so that doesn't help. Changes the trail.
This reminds me of the whole Norway situation where I think someone just said to me, you should be able to find the trail. And often people say that and you go, when was the last time you were on it? Oh, yeah, about 12 years ago. It's like trails can be eaten up by the forest so quickly.
I'm not really seeing too many markings. But I'm kind of using my nose, going with my instinct at the moment. There we go. Another marking. Okay.
When you're trying to stay on a very faint trail, you got to slow down. Think about all the trajectories are going, and usually your instincts will help, but sometimes the trail just takes a turn that you weren't expecting. And the minute you've gone, the second you've gone too far, you've got to go back. Always go back to where you were the most familiar with the trail. Okay, this is the trail. I went that way and it's not helping. Well, what if it's maybe over this? And you got to really kind of, where would they go? And looking up high, looking down low, looking in the middle. I mean, just some trails will be, you can tell whoever marked them, marked everything at the 4-foot height level or something like that. So that's where you know where to look, sort of thing.
My last marking is quite a ways back. Okay, well, that didn't take long to get lost.
All around me are pathways and old trails and roads, all useless and more confusing than anything else. Just follow the roads downhill can be death sentence advice to a lost hiker.
See, now this is when you follow a trail and it kind of does you no good because you end up at the fork in the road. I can go that way, I can go down that way. So I'm gonna have to go on instinct because there's no markings anywhere. These are just remote roads probably used for logging at some point. I'll keep going down, I'll keep going east, using my compass. Gotta make an executive decision here. I'd love to see a marking, but it's been, a good hour since I saw any markings. Walking so slow and so quietly, I wouldn't be surprised if I scared up a mama bear and some cubs, but actually talking to the camera actually helps because my voice is being projected out there. And
It's insane how far your voice, a human voice, projects into the wilderness, especially along roads. Now, by that same token, you can be on the other side of a river and not be heard at all. But here, animals will hear me talking to the camera, and that's, really helpful. Actually, got to go change that camera. Here, I'll tell you what. You guys watch this for a little bit while I switch the batteries on that camera. Keep watching. Hey everyone, allow me to interrupt myself. I don't really like hawking merchandise and swag, but you guys do ask all the time where you can get certain items. For example, check this out, Hennessy hammock. I put a lot of time and effort into designing this hammock with Hennessy. It's their top hammock. It's an amazing, beautiful, comfortable hammock to enjoy for all of your adventures out there, so just check it out. It's got a full-size tarp, which was a big thing for me. It's got insulation, and I love it. So I've got the Hennessy hammocks. Of course, for years I've been in a phenomenal relationship with Hella of Norway, Hella Knives. And this is our signature knife, of course, the Tamagami. These knives are handmade. In fact, I've been there to this very ancient factory where I don't know how many, it's well over 100 years that they've been operating, and every single handle is handmade. All of the grinding, everything is done by hand. And these knives are absolutely beautiful. I also now have a brand new relationship, and you will see these items, new forging tools that I'm designing with LT Wright Knives out of Ohio. And also, Chef Paul Rogalski of Wild Harvest has the signature Chef Paul Rogalski kitchen knife. collection. Those are a big thrill to me, to have these beautiful items that we spent years designing, and I still have them available for you. However, if you want to go more the route of just enjoying the Survivorman legacy, if you will, then of course, go to my website, lestroud.ca, go to the shop page. Right there, you've got everything. All the swag, all the merch, such as my manual on survival. This is if you want to get into survival. This book is meant to be a way to walk you through step by step, because I deal a lot more with concepts than I do with specifics, because that's really important. Once you understand the concepts of fire by friction, for example, you can do it depending on where you are, because I can't give you the advice on how to do it here in Canada and hope that it's also going to work down in the jungle. Things are different. So I've always been very proud of this book, Survive. So that is my survival manual. Also, if you weren't aware, I've got the book Will to Live. I wrote this book well, it's kind of for a lot of fun. I took my 10 favorite survival stories, such as Chris McCandless Into the Wild or the Robertson family and the life raft, and I basically dissect them with this book. I tear apart the story, I go through everything, and I even give them a little bit of a grade on how I thought they did. So I really enjoyed writing this book. It's a real easy read, it's a fast read, but I think there's a lot of insight there for you into all of these different examples of people who have either survived or perished. Speaking of books, so honored, so thrilled, so proud that Wild Outside, my first children's book, has won the Yellow Cedar Award, Best Nonfiction Children's Book in Canada for ages 7 to 14. I tell stories from Survivorman, lessons learned during those expeditions and adventures, and there are even activities they can do in the out of doors. So there you go. My new book, my children's book, Wild Outside, Around the World with Survivorman, has just won the Yellow Cedar Award, and I'm up for another award yet. And in keeping with stuff that's going on right now, we are also up for an award for our Season 1 recipe book from the series Wild Harvest. And if you've never caught the series Wild Harvest, check this out.
Hey Les!
Gotta watch the whales!
Oh my gosh! This perhaps is the most incredible kitchen scenario I've ever had.
Can you create a dish where the domestic ingredients don't overshadow the wild ingredients?
This dish is a showcase of how great these foraged ingredients come together.
It's the best when it's its own flavor. When you're making something with a wild edible, you're nailing it and not losing the wild flavor. Tell me that doesn't look awesome. 2 seasons right now, 26 episodes. In the United States, it's on PBS stations. You can also get it on this YouTube channel. In Canada, Cottage Life TV. In Sweden and Norway, on Matt Canalan. It's on National Geographic. Asia, which includes China and India. So my Wild Harvest series is playing around the world now, and we, with every single season, create a recipe book based on the recipes that we show you in the actual shows themselves. So that's Wild Harvest. And of course, if you want the DVD, you can get that on this website as well, lestroud.ca. And let's not forget too, that I'm a musician. The CDs themselves are available on the website. The next release will be the re-release of the Mother Earth album on vinyl. But go on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to music, or on my website. You can go to the shop page, you can pick up all of my CDs. So this is the last one. This is my 20th anniversary selection. Check it out. Every film I've ever made, 76 films in all of the Survivorman, Bigfoot, Beyond Survival, music documentaries, one-off films such as the award-winning La Loche about the school shooting up in Canada and a healing canoe trip. This is my 20th anniversary, 76 films. And people that have picked this up have raved about it. And I'm really proud that I can say I've got 20 years of anything, to be honest with you. That's available for you as well on that Les Stroud shop page. Okay, that's me hawking my stuff. Back to the video. Anything up ahead that doesn't want to run into a human is gonna get out of the way. At least that's the theory.
So many little bits of advice for a lost victim can be so misleading. What sounds good in theory is often a recipe for disaster in practice. And for every rule of thumb in survival, there's an exception to that rule. It's confusing to be in the midst of so much evidence of past and present human activity.
All right, so this is one of those times where you feel like you're so close and yet so far. There's all kinds of old logging activity here around me, but I can't find the right trail down anymore. This is when you start burning yourself out in a survival situation. You spend extra energy double backing, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm going back up to see if I can find a trail marker anywhere. Otherwise, I just gotta kind of head down and hope I'm going in the right direction, which the compass will keep me going east, but that doesn't mean I'm not gonna hit cliffs or problem areas that I can't even get out of.
It's funny, you know, I can hear myself foreshadowing what's going to come without even knowing it. And this was one of those situations where I was so confident because the forest area, everything sort of felt familiar, a lot of, you know, very much like Canada. So there's confidence in me. I can tell you, oh yeah, I'm just going to do this thing. But by the same token, I can hear the trepidation in my voice because the truth and the reality is if you really don't know where you're headed, you could be headed for hell. And it's tricky because my skill set prompts me to keep pushing forward. But the reality is that I just could be digging my hole deeper and deeper the whole time.
So, I don't see any mark.
Bear in mind that nobody knows where I am at this point. There's nobody in the crew, back at the crew camp that is shooting all the B-roll, the pretty shots. They don't know where I am. The search and rescue guys, they don't know where I am. All they know is where they left me off at the top of the mountain, knowing I was headed down towards that old cabin, and that was it. That's all the information that they have on me. And where I went from there was up to me. The idea was I was going to try to make it down to a real road. That was sort of like the plan. Can I get myself down to a real road? And, you know, they said, well, yeah, maybe, you know, where and how long. They didn't really, I didn't ask them to tell me. And, yeah, it became, well, we'll see when we get to the search and rescue.
Kings anywhere. It was looking good there for a while, but even my own cousin was lost for 3 days on logging roads. 3 days, and you're on a road. You'd think you'd be able to find your way out, but that's not the case. So
let's make stronger point there of that. Logging roads are not always salvation. They do go off into crazy areas because they're just going in to extract the trees. It doesn't mean that even when they go downhill, they may go down into a valley where they're taking the trees and then they're gone. That's it. They stop there. So logging, certainly better than walking straight through the forest, of course, is very helpful. At some point they have to go somewhere, but did you turn in the right direction? And you could go for miles and days in the wrong direction to find out that it's a dead end.
this looks like a comfort zone because it's wide and open and there's human activity, but I don't know where to go next. Wow. I'm coming to some pretty steep areas, that's for sure. I gotta head down there.
That must have been the general area location where I said I would walk down to. Now that's starting to ring a bell now.
Huh, there's some fresh running water. All right, I'm gonna stop, look at my compass, have a drink of this water, try and figure this out.
I can tell just by watching myself here, and again, like all these director's commentaries, I haven't seen this in years, that I can see I'm going back and forth. I'm spinning around a lot. That means I'm confused, and I can always hear it in my voice too. It's like, okay, I don't know what to do now. This is very uncomfortable.
Decision-making with low blood sugar or even a little bit of dehydration is a frustrating and even debilitating experience. Add in exhaustion, being cold or hot, various fears, and you can be gripped with a panic that keeps you from doing the right thing, from effecting the right kind of survival. In this situation, I'm losing precious hours walking back and forth, just trying to figure out what to do, which way to go.
Yeah, I think give me a belly full of food and lots of water, and my decision-making process becomes much better. But boy, it doesn't take long. 24 hours without blood sugar, and you get very confused.
This is one of those times, when people ask me about how much time I spend filming survival versus actually surviving, and is that, the filming takes up a lot of the time. But then there are those times when I don't have complete control of the survival situation, and I have to kind of stop worrying about running these cameras and concentrating on my own survival. And this is one of those times. So, I try and trust my instincts here, and hopefully they prove out right. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And this is the trail I'm going to take a chance on. Bottom line, it either keeps going and takes me in the right direction, I'm going to have to climb all the way back up.
In the middle of this thick forest, I'm lost, and even the trails I find offer me no solid answers.
True story. All of this, absolutely. And it's not that often that ever happens in a Survivorman expedition that I'm actually lost. As I know generally where I need to go, sort of thing. And here, I'm trying to get to where I'm supposed to go, but I'm not getting there, and I'm getting stopped. So, yeah. And I can hear it in my own voice. This is like being actually lost while filming a Survivorman episode for a TV series. Is it's weird. Because most of the time I was like, okay, I'm being dropped off here, I'm being dropped off there, they're going to come and get me in 7 days and so on. But this was sort of that extra little bit of next level.
Uh-oh. This is not a good sign. I think I'm coming to the end of the trail here and nothing. Maybe I should have taken the road. No markings. The only markings I see are red ones from old logging, which just means cut this tree. I think I took a wrong trail.
What it likely was simply a push into the forest to take some trees, and then it just stops. So it wasn't really a trail at all.
Now there's a big load of bear poop. Clearly there's a lot of bear here. All right, at this point, I'm lost.
When I film myself surviving, sometimes I know where I am and where I need to go. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I go too far.
This was the era when I believe I probably had Ian Auger there to run the drone. Ian came out on several episodes of Survivorman, first as field producer and then eventually in drone, and he really had an aptitude for running those drones, and this was when we bought them ourselves, no longer had to hire crews and all of that. And I know that somewhere in Romania, sadly, from all sorts of levels, is one of our drones, because Ian lost it. He's lost 2 drones of mine. He lost one in Romania and one in Northern Ontario. Thanks, Ian.
The drone was really effective for us because it wasn't used as a miniature helicopter that flies low. And that was the thing that I hated, that when everybody would do. They fly it up and they hover it, and it's like, oh look, it's a low flying helicopter. Well, it had to sort of be a character, so which was more like, it sort of was more your point of view as you travel through the wherever landscape you're on.
I've lost the trail. There's still various chunks of logging around here, but that's not helping me. I'm trying to figure out how to get to where I've got to be, which is way down there. You know what I see down there is water. I can see water through the trees. There's a river or creek So if I'm gonna be stuck anywhere, I wanna be stuck beside water. I can even see there's logging roads way over there on the other side of the valley going way up. I mean, I'd never go up to those. And then it just goes on forever. It's a lush green valley. All right, well, check the batteries on the camera stuff and take a break and then head down. I'm not going back up. When I know I'm going to be doing a bit of a trek, I have to slim down quite a bit and not carry too many cameras. Other times I have beanbag mounts and multiple cameras. In this case, I'm trying out a new wrist mount, see how that works. And then, of course, I got to check and make sure the battery's still good. So I have to do all of this with batteries and cards. The whole reason I'm on this side of the world is because of this little card right here. So if I drop this or do something stupid with it, I lose the show, you know, that I'm trying to film right now. So what I do is when I pull it out, I have a Ziploc bag that I triple, and I put all my cards in here, and then I shove it away deep and down deep and dark in the pack, and hope that's all it takes to keep it safe. And a little piece of green tape on the battery like that. When the battery is spent and I pull it out of the camera, I take that tape and I put it over top of the connectors, throw that in the bag. Now I know when I grab another battery, I say, oh, not that one, it's already used. And little things like that just help me to kind of get through my weeks out here. Okay, so right now I got to change the cards on you.
So stuff like that was always fun for me to be able to share, but also, you know, a lot of people who are into filmmaking or trying to get into filmmaking were really interested to see that. How do you do this? How do you do that? And really, I could do a whole seminar on outdoor adventure filmmaking. Often, what I'll see now showing up on YouTube and that is so poorly put together. There's some really good ones out there too. And just a few little things make such a big difference. You have to really take the filmmaking serious.
What I'll do is I'll drink out of the baggie first. I also filled up this stove. It's not meant to carry water, but I made it carry water. Every little bit helps. And in a survival situation, just about everything gets repurposed. Everyone who climbs knows going down is harder than going up. I can see a creek down there, so that's where I'm headed.
What I'm really mostly worried about in these kinds of situations is whether or not I'm going to kick over a hornet nest.
Oh, man. I gotta go down on my bum for some of this.
Quick note here that if you do not want to keep seeing me interrupt this all the time and you just want to see it straight through, go on to the playlist and you can find Survivorman Romania. This is Romania Part 1. You can watch it without me interrupting like I just did.
Oh, well, there you go. This is a good time to stop for a treat. Strawberries. Not gonna pass them by. Not when they're right on my path on the way down the hill. Wow, are they ever good. All right.
It's been many hours straight down a very steep mountainside, and if I get stopped by a cliff or impasse, the only way out will be back up.
Uh-oh. No, 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 no. No, no, no. Come on, give me a way down.
And that is when you always know if Les Stroud, Survivorman, is stressed out. When I start talking to myself, and often when I say that, no, 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 no. It's like, no, it can't be. Please tell me that's not what's going to happen here. And so that's pretty real. I can feel it in my body watching this.
No, 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 no. No, no, come on. I need a way down. Oh, crap.
Proof of how, just looking, never mind looking at a map, which can be totally misleading, but just looking even at the forest going, yeah, we can walk over there. And lots of times you cannot.
There are times when I push too hard, cross the line too far, and get myself in more trouble than I had bargained for.
I think I've come to a cliff area here. Oh boy. Ah, crap. I gotta go back up. I'm at a cliff. Oh no. Oh no. I can't go down there. I'm at the tops of trees. Ay, ay, ay.
The ground is so...
Now, in Norway, same thing, except it was covered in snow and ice, if you can imagine. I'd say I've run into this, 4 or 5 times in my life, bushwhacking, and just coming to the it's sort of impassable, if you will, cliff. You just can't keep going. It's a cliff, and you say, well, can I get off the side? Nope, it sort of pinches off and there's nowhere to go. This does happen, and you've got to, it's so much better if you can know truthfully where you are headed.
so steep at the top of the cliff that I can't even get enough footing to sit down and rethink my situation. Even just to do this, I have to climb back up 100 yards or more.
I can tell by my face and the grimace on my face, now I'm also getting angry. That's another emotion that happens in a survival situation when things aren't going well, is anger comes out. For me, it's if I'm to blame and I've done something stupid, that's when I will get the most angry with myself. Of course, the danger of that is you get mad, you get angry, you throw something, you hit something, you stomp. Now you're in the danger of harming yourself, breaking something, twisting an ankle, hurting your wrist, whatever. And it's all immature and it's all stupid, but it's all understandable at the same time. In a survival situation. So much for my morning meditation.
Okay. Oh my God. That was foolish. I almost actually went over the cliff. It's a moment where I started sliding down.
Remembering to run the camera in moments like this was always really tricky. Well, it's not that I didn't remember to do it, it's just that I knew I had to, but at the same time I'm trying to collect myself, catch my breath. Oh yeah, I got to press record too, you know. Often it was much more helpful just to leave cameras running. That's where the GoPros really came in and helped a lot. I just leave them running, you know, burn up cards, burn up batteries sort of thing. But how do you tell this story as a filmmaker and live through it at the same time?
I got lucky there. Lucky that I didn't kill myself. I just about lost my footing at the top of the cliff.
This must be the year that GoPros finally became something for me that could change how much weight I was carrying. You can see I've got 2 GoPros on there. I probably still had 4 cameras with me, but previous to this, there would have been 4 larger cameras, heavier cameras. And so this was around the year that GoPros started to become a little bit, you know, better quality, that you could get away with using them for something for broadcast.
It was slippery and I would have kept sliding. Now I still have a long walk uphill to get back to where that road was. 35 years of survival. I'm still making mistakes.
A small mistake out here could very well cost me my life.
And I will still make mistakes, unfortunately.
This is not drama. It's real survival.
I know the camera isn't going to reflect this, but this is many hours going back up this hill just to get back to that spot on the road. I go for 5 minutes, stop for 5 minutes, go for 5 minutes, stop for 5 minutes, because it's just all straight uphill.
No one, not my crew or authorities, even know where I am now. I'm way too far off my original intended trail.
By the way, these beautiful, stunning mountains are called the Transylvanian Alps. Gorgeous.
My only goal I have right now is to get back to that road. I can reassess my situation then. If I have to, I'll just stay right there for tonight. Try and start fresh tomorrow. If there was ever a time when I needed to get some rest so that I could get my senses about me again and rethink my survival situation, it's now.
It'll take me at least 5 more hours to get back up this mountainside.
Oh my God, I'm at the road. I think I'm at the road. Please let me the road.
After many hours spent on a grueling uphill climb, I make it back to the road and the stream. But by no means am I in the clear when it comes to surviving out here.
I've drank as much water as I could. I've rested for a good solid hour. I've actually long enough so that the sun could dry all of the sweat off of my clothing, it was just soaked.
Because you sweat. Exactly. Those moments that I would take in situations like this where I'm not going to freeze or become hypothermic, but could strip down and get clothing to dry, that little gesture makes you feel human again, rather than pushing forward where your shirt's just drenched in sweat. You get, if you've got sunshine and wind and you can dry out, and it's going to take 45 minutes, take that 45 minutes and dry out.
And I think what I'll do is I'll head down the road. See, the whole issue I'm having is leaving that water.
Because for those of you who don't know, you sweat, you die.
Water's vital to me in a situation like this, and I don't want to find myself on, 75 miles of road without any water. The reality of me choosing to walk past this road and keep going straight and ending up at a cliff and, nearly putting myself in some serious peril is that that's what happens over and over again in survival situations. People even have been on the road in their car, and they'll get out of the car and then they'll walk off into the unknown rather than going back on the road that they know. Even if it was 50 miles back, My advice, you go back. Wow, something big just ran through the bush. Very big. Had some weight to it too, so probably a bear. I would have thought my talking to the camera would set things off. Whatever it was heavy. The good thing about me following this road out is that in terms of search and rescue, once they get started trying to find me, this should be an obvious place to look.
I just realized that I think I went past that spot. There's some spot here. Luke, maybe you can show the spot, but there's some spot here where people think they can see Bigfoot behind me. And, you know, I will say that we've had fun humoring the situations when people think they see Bigfoot behind me in varying episodes. Simply had fun going in and well, you know, let's take a look. I got to tell you that most of the times it's just an out of focus leaf or something like that. But this one we actually went and looked, and I had them go back and check in the high res, and they still couldn't really make out what that was. So at this point, who knows?
Because anybody who's lost and trying to find their way out comes to a road is more likely to take it and not do the stupid thing I did by heading straight down.
But the Salvamont Search and Rescue Team has not yet received any GPS satellite signals from me indicating that I'm lost or where I might be.
Well, it's getting late enough in the day that I'm not going to keep walking. Come across a pretty substantial, beautiful spring of water, so that's a good place to stop. I'm not sure if I've ever done survival along an old dirt road before. After getting beat up by going all the way down to that cliff, I want to take it a bit easy on myself tonight, not keep pushing too hard. Well, first things first, I want to get a substantial fire going in case it does come on to rain. I can tell my patience is just shot from being physically exhausted. I got the flint striker and this and that, but I don't have the patience to even pull it out. I just got the matches here. I'm just going to use the matches. It would be better to save the matches because you never know how long you're going to be out here for and how many of these you just might need. And if I can get fires going alternative ways that last a very long time, like using a flint striker, it's actually better. I'm just tired, burned out, and have no patience for starting the fire that way.
Now, something to take note of, you know, your attitude. Your attitude changes everything, the way you do stuff. You start getting dejected, you really do start doing the wrong thing. The right thing would be to use my flint striker and save the matches. But at this point, I don't care. So attitude, bad attitude, but a real attitude, because it's just reacting to what's been going on.
I don't know what else to say about that.
And as far as surviving beside a road, yeah, this is again the situations that I really enjoyed. You know, surviving alongside the train tracks on the fan episode. Check that director's commentary out. You know, alongside sometimes rivers or something like that. But alongside a dirt road, of course, like in the case of my cousin, people get lost and they're still following a dirt road, but they're still stuck out there. It's kind of fun for me to experience that in many ways, because most of the time when I would be learning or practicing survival or training in it, I would go off into the bush, always off into the bush. But like, well, but what do you do if you actually are beside a road? Do you just sleep on the road? What do you do?
Fear, exhaustion, pain from injuries, being too cold or too hot. These and many other issues will cause us to make a wrong decision during a survival ordeal. We just want it all to get over with. It can help to do something that feels familiar to us, even if it's silly, like shaving, or reading, or having a hot cup of tea.
You know where I get the shaving thing from? From an old movie with George Burns and John Denver called, I think it's called Oh God. And when John Denver first meets or realizes that George Burns is actually God, there's a moment where, if I remember correctly, where he says, yeah, shave. You know, do something that you're familiar with.
Feeling a little strange, huh? You know what's good for that? Shaving.
And so he shaves to make himself get a handle on the moment, you know, and that's really the point, is when anything you can do that feels like it's part of your normal, safe, within civilization life will make you feel better in a survival situation. Just going to stop that, Luke. It looks like the other camera for some reason is shut down, and it shouldn't have.
There are a few things in a survival situation that can make you feel a little more human. Hot drink is one of them. In this case, clover tea. Although maybe I'm feeling really human, because if to feel humbled and beaten is human, then I'm feeling it. In many ways, it's almost like I'm experiencing survival, how do I say, a little more realistic even, simply because I am so exhausted. I don't even feel like making the shelter. Probably won't. I'm just going to sit here. And that's usually the case for a lost victim. In my case, I often have the skill set to do this or to do that, and I'm focused and I'm zoned in and I got the adrenaline, so I build a shelter. But I think most of the time for lost victims, you feel just like I do right now. Beaten, humbled, exhausted. The last thing I want to do right now is go around trying to get branches and sticks to build a shelter. It's tough enough just getting the fire going.
So hopefully that explains myself. I mean, in times it'd be easy to be critical to watch a Survivorman episode and say, well, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And there's the realities there. You know, when you're actually truly dealing with survival, so much comes into play, and you can give up so easily when you're cold, tired, hungry, thirsty, exhausted, beaten up, sore, injured. It just becomes, all of that weighs against the survival victim.
35 years of survival, I'm still learning.
It would seem our greatest lessons come from our greatest mistakes. It's an unfortunate reality, especially when it comes to survival.
There's a lot of good high-tech equipment that you can make use of, and should. GPS that I can send texts with. I've got another satellite GPS that I can't send texts, but it's supposed to send signals up of where I am at all times. I've got a satellite phone and my cell phone. A, they all run on batteries, and B, they have to connect to the satellites. And of the four of them, not one has a signal, nor have any of them had a signal for the longest time. So they aren't anything to me at this moment. They're just hunks of equipment that I'm carrying around with me. I'm trying.
This is important stuff here. As much as I very much believe in technology and the GPSs and the inReaches and the Garmins and so on, by the same token, if the batteries are dead, they're just hunks of junk in your pack.
Trying to get a message out for search and rescue. Yes, yeah, I typed out a message 45 minutes ago, and it's still not sending. To say, look, here I am, come and get me. And none of my high-tech devices are getting that message out. Even though I'm on a dirt road, that doesn't mean they'll look here. And it doesn't mean that there's an end to this road anytime soon. I've had this turned on for quite a while. It just still says, searching for signal. That's the reality of high-tech equipment. They're wonderful when they work.
I don't fear the dark, I fear the cold. I don't fear the rain, I fear the wind. I don't fear pain, I fear exhaustion. And I don't fear big scary animals, I fear indecision.
Cold, wind, exhaustion, and indecision. Cold, the cold. Wind, exhaustion, and indecision. my nemesis in a survival situation.
All of my years of survival skills don't amount to a hill of beans if I make one wrong move.
Yes, of course I took that from Casablanca. Good catch there.
One more drastic mistake.
There is nothing about that right there that is comfortable. It's miserable. Try sleeping in a crouched position. It's just awful. That's a very dejected Les Stroud right there.
It's gonna be a long night. Sitting and sleeping like this. No energy to do anything else.
I'll sit out the night with no one knowing exactly where I am or what I'm doing. Even the safety net I currently have, the technology, is failing me. Are we too lazy to file a trekking plan with the authorities? Maybe too adventurous to stick to it and avoid heading off into lands unknown?
I'm just going to interrupt myself. I forgot, this sounds awfully egotistical, but I just forgot how good some of these episodes were, especially, in the later years of producing for Survivorman. I know some people love the rawness and the ruggedness of the early Survivorman episodes the best, but for me, as a filmmaker, I looked at some of the editing that Barry did and the musical choices and the music that was written by Richard Jackson and Ian Auger and Brian Ian Auger and George Catapan. It was just powerful. And the storytelling, even some of my own scripting is like, that sounds pretty cool, and it's powerful to see it again like this. So this is part 1 of Romania, and we pick it up with part 2 in the next director's commentary.
Are we too macho to take along a safety net or a hiking companion? Well, no problem. Then we're not too immune to paying a price, no matter how heavy of a price we may be called upon to pay. We're never too experienced to not make a mistake here, where a simple mistake can turn fatal. If we didn't make mistakes out here, there would be no need for search and rescue teams. But the wilderness is neither against you or for you. It only demands one thing from you if you're to survive: respect. Respect the wilderness, and you're on the right path to not making a foolish or fatal mistake.
Cool. All right, guys, that's part 1 of Romania. I have to go down and drink some horrifying, god-awful concoction for tomorrow's colonoscopy, and I got to start drinking that now. So, yummy, yum, yum. Let's go get this, what do they call it, peg light? Let's go get this into my system and see what happens. That's it for now, though, but I might come back in just a little bit and do the next one right away. See you soon.